Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for the final installment of the Soul Activation series. So hopefully you've been with me over the whole journey, or if this is the first time you're seeing this because you're intrigued by this thumbnail, there's a whole series that comes through this that has a through line in the pile that you might have chosen in the first instance, but you can kind of backtrack and do the same thing in the other direction, because this is following the steps of Joseph Campbell's Hero's Quest in a kind of loose way to look at soul activation, how that could be operating for you, because of a download I had that 2024 was a time when there was going to be significant soul activation for people. So what I have found now that I am at the sixth and final installment, and I have filmed them in order, is that there is a through line for the piles. So that's very, very clear. But as I've said all along, if you follow that, which is my strong recommendation, if you do feel drawn to other piles as well in some of the installments, by all means listen to those, because there's probably some amalgamation of the two that is really kind of better describing the various stages of your soul activation. But now we're at the kind of end point. There are two last steps that we're looking at here. Having gone through the soul activation, recognized it, taken on the challenge, taken on the ordeal, gone through the change, and starting to sort of think about the road back and who you're going to be now, there is a very internal process called resurrection, where you go within and you see how you're changed and how this connects to your soul's ascension and growth and so forth. Answers some of the riddles or questions that might have occurred in the road back stage. And then you achieve the elixir, the true mastery. So that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at what you draw within yourself, how you integrate it, and what you have become, what you have mastered as a result of this soul activation. So like with all of them, we start with a Major Arcana card from the Nameless One Tarot by Alexandria Huntington, chosen because of the sigils to help activate the soul activation at each stage of this journey. And as I've said, if you've been with one particular pile all the way through, you'll probably now know why it's important to stick with that, but by all means go to more than one if you want in this final stage as well. For pile number 1, we have the Death card. For pile number 2, we have the High Priestess. And for pile number 3, we have the Star. So what interests me is there's been actually quite a bit of kind of repeating energy in some of the piles around the activation to go in, but this is a fresh look for all. So I think it shows the importance of this particular energy and that all has changed, and this is now the you going forward. So I really am excited to see what we get at this last stage. If you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps as always are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So you came to the reading that came in with the Death card. So this is telling me that in these last stages, the resurrection and the finding of the elixir, the finding of the true power, there is another transition or choice that you face. And I think it will have come off the back of the road back, where in the last reading, you would have been looking at what you take from the experience that you've gone through and keep, and what you let go, what you allow to change you and what you changed. And so this is a very profound energy. The Death card is the choice and the transition, the cutting of certain threads and the flying away and freeing and liberating of others. So for you, the resurrection is very literally that. It's like something in you has been let go to allow the more true you to come up. And the thing that interests me is that all the way through this journey for you, there's been a kind of a push-pull between creative, speedy, inspired energy and connecting to the heart, all within something to do with something material and making wealth and all of that kind of thing. So it was like the speed of your creativity and your inspiration and all of that kind of thing having to temper itself and come into balance with the slower sort of energy of wealth and materiality. And in doing that, in you tempering your energy and keeping it in balance, because we started, if I remember correctly, with the Chariot. I might just double check that. Oh, actually, no, we started with the Hierophant. Oh, okay. So that's that. I'm confusing you. That's interesting with pile 3. So we started with actually the established power. Actually, this makes even more sense because I was thinking around the Chariot for you, but I think it's because there was a lot in this about you bringing things into balance and so forth and the material side of things. But we started with the Hierophant with you. So So this is about a true transition to what your true power is, which makes then a lot of sense with the oracle cards here. I mean, it would have made sense about balancing it and taking on truly who you were as well. But that there's still been something about the material world and balance and creativity and what you could create. That's been the storyline we've seen. And a lot of it has been about creativity and bringing the new spring and the new energy in a balanced way that connects to the heart. But having gone through that, having gone through the ordeal and having decided what bits of that you take and what bits you let go in understanding what you can do in this world and what you believe and what your learning is and what your skills are and all those sort of things where you started in that space and you're now having mastered it, you are moving towards something that's much more magical and less material. Because we have here as the resurrection energy, the bringer of dreams. And so this suggests to me that as you integrate this, a lot will happen in the dream state or in meditation or in things like that. There is a going within, and the resurrection energy is meant to be that anyway, but there is a very profound going within that is about what have you learned, created and seen in this journey and what is true of you. So if you start with the Hierophant around the learning and the structures and the skills and so forth, of an existing empire, this is now what is truly yours. What can you lead? What can you create? What can you manifest? But you go within to see what is your dream and what is the spiritual energy for that, which leads to a mastery that is magic. This is the bringer of magic. So we start with the traditions and all of those things, which may have been partly to learn the laws of magic, depending upon how you've managed this. But you went through a journey that was very much about creativity in the heart and against hardline sort of beliefs, structures, greed, whatever it might be. That was the kind of more negative side of the King of Wealth, which we kept seeing for you. And you're now at a point of magic and being able to create from a more heart-centered approach. It's very interesting, therefore, that we have Thunder, the perfect mind here, which is effectively the Tower card reversed. So you are now able to step by step understand what your magic is. And with the Page of Cups here, with Sophia's journey, the Seeker, how your heart is at the center of it, as opposed to being the structure, the money, the creation, the manifestation. Now what's in the center of it is the heart, which has brought things. This is actually temperance. It's Carpocrates from the Gnostic Tarot, brought things into balance. This is probably actually why I was confusing you with pile 3, because there was a lot in pile 3 around balance. And I feel like as your journey went through, there was a lot about balancing the material with the heart. So there is a kind of a correlation, and some of you may have actually watched some of pile 3 as well. Since I had that kind of energy. So he actually looked at, he was a Gnostic figure, a teacher in Alexandria, and he looked at balance, the balance of all sort of aspects. That's why he's representing temperance here. So this is about careful, slow change, careful, slow resurrection towards the heart and bringing that into balance, which is what triggers the magic. So you are actually at the end of this becoming a magician. But it wasn't maybe necessarily what you originally thought. Some of you might have with the Hierophant. Right at the beginning, it might have been, I want to learn that. If that's the case through this soul activation, it might have taken a particular journey, which was around the heart and what you could birth and what you could bring into being. And looking at kind of having a stewardship and a leadership role, because it became more and more and more that as we went through, connecting into that King of Wealth. But what you truly are and what you're taking forward is magic, an internal process. So you may have given up in the last steps. And in the last one, maybe the crown, as I kept saying, and you've stepped into being the advocate, which is more about influence, which is more a magical energy. But really for you, the mastery of this is magic. And it is your resurrection is understanding how spiritual you are, even though a lot of what you've been doing has been in the material world and has required of you leadership. Let's have a look at the affirmation. So the affirmation for the Death card is, I cut and sever that which is toxic from my life and thereby create room for new growth and transformation. And that has been one of the themes of all of this about new growth, transformation. That was your stewardship, was to allow for fertile land for that to occur, the sort of spring energy. Then when we're looking at the resurrection, the inward journey where you integrate this, the affirmation of the bringer of dreams, I sleep peacefully and heal with each restful breath. I think it definitely is saying there's a kind of meditative sleep energy. A lot of this will happen in the liminal space, leading to the mastery, the elixir, what's really come from this. The bringer of powerful magic. My magic is constant, continuous, and powerful. And I think balanced, taken in a measured way, connected to the heart and balanced. So at the end of all of this, whatever your learnings, whatever your stewardship, whatever systems you were dealing with, however that played out, and a lot of it was playing out in the material world, what you have found and what you've created is magic. So let's see. Sorry, I just tilted the camera. Let's see what area of life this magic will first manifest when you fully imbue the energy of the resurrection and you come into your true mastery. Health and wellness. Actually, that's where you started, I think. If I remember right, there was sort of something, it was an interesting thing, if I remember correctly, between the king of wealth, which seemed to be about material things like jobs and money and everything, but then wealth is also health. And it was about what would be a healthy way, a healthy distribution of resources, a healthy organization, health as a vocation, whatever it might be. So when you come back to this, you're coming back to that core issue about what is a healthy and well way of doing whatever you do. And now you're bringing your magic and what you've learnt to it. So what's the advice at the end of this soul activation journey for you? Stand your ground. There is something you want to fight for, yet you are choosing to hide instead. Create a boundary and speak up for what you believe in. Okay, so you may have drawn all this in and you've got this balance, but you still know with the Tower reverse that there are still things to fight. There are still things that need to be adjusted. And so this is saying you can't go completely within and just be all mystical. You do still need to sort of stand in your truth, but know that it is true. Know that you've gone through this purification process and that you have opened up a real power to influence now. I mean, and this is what it sort of feels like. You're moving from the ruler, I think, in the last reading to the advocate. This is like influence is now influence. Magic is influence. That's what you can now use now that you've sort of absorbed that energy of this soul activation. But that you do still have some battles that you want to do. This isn't over from your perspective on that level. So let's have a look in a little bit more detail. Let's have a look at what do you need to integrate to fully have the success. So we'll just get the Lumen Tarot to ask that question. So in the resurrection stage, what are you integrating now? What do you still need to sort out, integrate, understand? Much of which I think, as I say, will happen in a meditative state or in dreams, in that kind of area. What is necessary to fully awake the magic that you have so that you can use your influence and advocate for what you need and make other changes to bring in the balance that you want. 8 of Cups reversed. 5 of Cups. Perfection. Oh, that's interesting. 10 of Coins. So there's a material thing around this. There's been material health or material all the way through. 4 of Cups reversed. Okay, this suggests that as you've done this, and this kind of came up a bit in your pile's last reading from when we were looking at the reward and the road back, it does suggest, it looked there like you had a bit of an issue about having achieved a certain thing, but if you then walked away from it, was it sustainable? That was a kind of a question, I think, that came up in that one, if I remember correctly. So, and again, if I'm confusing it with any of this, just maybe if you've seen other ones, you'll connect it through. But I do feel there's a through line here that is saying that when you are incorporating it, one of your issues will be, what were the emotional losses? What were the emotional costs? What emotional energy is still hanging in this energy and blocking this lasting? And is part of it a kind of perfectionism? I do think there's a kind of an energy here that's saying that you are meant to be able to sort of pass this on and now influence and so forth, not necessarily to have to do everything perfectly. And I do think that this is interesting, because I think this is the second time where I think I'm kind of connecting pile 1 and pile 3. So I think in these later stages there's something similar, because the more I sort of think back and remember when I was filming for the 5th one, I think it was more around sustainability of the outcome for pile 3. Nevertheless, there is something here about the creation energy and the material energy and the well-being and the sustainability of it, the legacy of it. And in integrating it and sort of like finding what to cut, there is still some sort of disappointment or emotional energy. So I suspect that moving through this process for you and coming to terms with the creative energy associated with it and the balance associated with it that you brought in, there is some residual emotional energy. It's almost like you've empathically taken it on. So I feel that the part of this integration is to finally let go of disappointments that were associated with whatever this is, to finally own what you want materially, health-wise, whatever it is, to break that block that comes from a kind of perfectionism where it has to be done absolutely brilliantly and has to be by the book, or it has to be like if you start with the Hierophant learning tradition but you're actually moving towards a more numinous magical energy, you've got to kind of break out of the perfectionism. You've got to actually start to understand that emotions are just as powerful and that this can be kind of a block to the balance. So I feel that that's what you're integrating. You're integrating the letting go of any emotional disappointments or patterns that were coming up through this process that tied you to feeling if you weren't right, if you didn't do it always right, that it was somehow not going to be it wasn't going to be a healthy or good outcome. Because this is saying that you have actually achieved that. You did achieve what you were meant to do. But you may have to, and I think the stand your ground is why I'm getting it sort of connected to some of the energy of pile 3 as well too. There is something about sustainability. There was in pile 3, at least up to the last reading, and there certainly is for you here too. So there's something in how you incorporate this to let go of the emotional energy and let go of a tendency towards wanting everything to be perfect, because you have this sense of responsibility around things, to move towards being more sort of someone that knows, has the faith that it can sustain, that there is the magic, that you do have the magic to do that. And it's interesting too, because in the last reading, there was a sense of advocacy, that you're moving to advocacy, which is a different role. It's less in control. It's more the influencer. So it may be also letting go of it must be done my way. I must rule. It must be my rules. Otherwise it's not going to work, because you have to pass the baton on, or whatever the energy is that we're talking about. And so, as I say, there's a kind of a similarity between you and pile 3, but it's really playing out in how you move into this being more internal process and a process of advocacy, and less around being the boss in some way, or materially the leader or the qualified one. It's more around your magic rather than sort of situational, positional or qualification-based power. It's a different form of creativity. So let's see how does the actual resurrection energy operate for you. If there is that sense of needing to sort of process emotional stuff that still needs to be let go and a wish for perfection, what is the actual experience of integrating what you need to do? Ace of Cups, the Anvil, the Emperor reverse. It definitely is sort of letting go of temporal power for something else. Strength. Okay. So there's a couple of things that really jump out to me first here. The Anvil here is about technique. It's sort of what you're seeing here is Hephaestus, and Hephaestus was the sort of armourer of the gods, incredibly good with talent and technique. So there is something here about understanding the techniques that you have and how you can use them in a different way, and knowing that you master these techniques, this transition and change to be more creative and more influential and more of the heart, which connects to the Ace of Cups. you have mastered that. You can incorporate that as part of your kit bag. And in doing that, you can let go of the reins of some of the positional power or institutional power or qualification-based power, all the sort of stuff when you began with the Hierophant, to know a different strength. This is about incorporating strengths. But it's also understanding the emotional shift that could be involved in this. And the reason I say that is we've got the Ace of Cups and then Hephaestus. Hephaestus in the mythology married Venus or Aphrodite and never felt quite good enough for the love. So I think there is something here as well about, and this is going back to the perfectionism, this is why it's coming up. This is when we're really at mastering this and really at the resurrection energy and we're really incorporating it. You've gone through this process and you've done the creativity and you've been open-hearted and you've started to learn the power of your influence. All of those things, brought all your skills to bear. All of that has been your journey of the soul activation. At this point, you're also meant to realize that you don't have to be perfect to be lovable, that you don't have to be perfect to have the strength. You just have to trust your heart will navigate you to the right skills. And that is kind of the letting go energy, the cutting of the cord of what isn't going to work emotionally anymore, the going within to find the answer, because it is all within you. The skills are all within you. It's not an external, you may well have had externally high positions of power, or that could have been involved in this in some way, or money, or any of those sort of things. But even the wealth energy is actually more to do with the heart and your skills. And when you understand that, you're more able to shift your energy and find your true mastery, find your true strength. So there part of this journey for you was to understand how broad your skills were and to really make you see it, and to see that it wasn't, privilege or just being in the right place at the right time, or being in the right family, or whatever it might have been that might have put you in positions where there was money, resources, or whatever. Equally, if you're in the exact opposite position and you've always had to fight for all of that, your skills and your heart, you start to understand that's where the magic is. So this is the resurrection energy. So then we'll use the children of Letha and say, what is the ultimate true mastery that you have at the end of this magical energy that you have? How is that going to manifest for you? The Three of Cups reversed, the Chariot reversed, the Five of Cups reversed, very internal energy this. The Nine of Wands reversed, the King of Cups, Temperance reversed. Okay, it's interesting with the King of Cups. There's something in the energy of this reading. It didn't really happen in the others, but there's something in the energy of this reading for pile 1 that's connecting a lot to pile 3's energy. There is a similarity. I would almost suggest that you watch pile 3's as well, just to see what resonates, because there's something about that. What this is saying is that when you have the mastery, you have the mastery for a reason. And that's why it was very important for you to understand you had all the skills in the heart to do this, because you are going to heal others with this. You are going to be able to rebalance things that are out of balance. But you are going to be, and you were taking on the advocate role in the last reading, if you are going to do that, you are going to be around prickly, difficult people sometimes, and you're trying to bring them out of an emotional lack mentality. You're trying to unstick them from something that wasn't right. So it's like once you have mastered this and you do it, you're taking on a cause. But the people you're dealing with, they haven't gone through the healing that you've gone through. They haven't gone through the self-realization and understood their power yet. So it's almost as though not only are you taking on their cause, and they may push back and they may go slow and they may be stubborn, but you have to clear out these emotional energies and so forth so that you can actually heal others and do something, and you may eventually teach them. Because again, if this goes full circle in a way, if we started with the Hierophant as a way into your activation, there's something about learning, stewardship, all of that kind of thing associated with it. There's a lot of it then played out through the Emperor, through a position of power. But it's closing out on a position of healing and teaching from the heart rather from dogma. So I feel like there's something here where your mastery will be to help other people come out of the same emotional blockages that you have actually processed really successfully in this soul activation. And to do that, you become more of an advocate. Because if you were the boss, then you could just tell them, well, behave, but it's not actually going to do it. Being an advocate for the cause, going and sort of taking that forward, helping people heal, that's a much more powerful role. And that's what you're kind of moving into when you understand the mastery, and you really have the mastery and you're really connected to your heart. So that's really beautiful. So what we do when we ascend, when we resurrect, before we do that, and this is very strongly connected with having the death card as your way in, is that we first of all descend. You descend before you ascend. That's the whole resurrection energy. So we're going to have a look at a couple of shadow energies that you may deal with in the resurrection phase, and then the alchemy that helps you resurrect. So for you, as I say, some of this may have to do with needing to release perfectionism, needing to release a sense of unworthiness, starting to own and see that you really are worthy and you really are skilled and you are worthy of love and respect and all of those sorts of things, so that you can help others with this, I think. But that means you have to face your own shadows and deal with your own emotional blocks. This is the resurrection process. So let's see, firstly, 2 shadow energies to deal with. Then we'll have a look at the alchemy energy that will help you ascend and resurrect out of that phase. So firstly, we have the past, grief, identity, forgiveness. There's things in your past that you may not be happy with. Having gone through this process, you may think, gee, I wish I'd done that with a more heart-centered way. Gee, I wish I hadn't behaved that way to people. There are things like that you need to face and let go of, because it's not who you are anymore. You're fundamentally changed. But the past is kind of holding you in its grip in some way. I'm getting, for some of you, there could be like sibling rivalries. They almost look like brothers. There could be family responsibilities where you were meant to take on certain roles and you always had to be perfect. So there's something about understanding the impact of the past on where you doubt yourself. And we have the powerful tenacity, control, knowledge, your own issues about power, because a lot of this has been about power and how you use power, because you do have an innate power and you're coming to a magical power at the end of this. So this is your understanding. How in the past have you used power? That may be a particular question. Let's see the alchemizing, what actually helps you resurrect. So the alchemizing of whatever these energies from the past are is winter. Okay, and it's interesting, don't these look like wintry figures? There's something in your past where when things didn't work, you froze over and you closed your heart. You might have felt you had to do that to be a leader, or if you were working in the health sort of area, because there's something around health and well-being with this, it could have been having to be very dispassionate, as a doctor or as a therapist or something. There's something in the past where you disconnected from the heart, where you frosted up rather than having to work with that. You maybe even thought it was a bit of a weakness. But now you're needing to defrost that, defrosting that energy, being ready for the spring. And it's interesting because spring has been a recurring motif in this for you, where things bloom, where things blossom, where things create. So understanding your past was there is part of releasing yourself from that. And then the probably more complex issue around shadow and the underworld and descent when it comes to power and what your resurrection energy can do. The reddening, embodying this. Some of you, there is a bloodline thing here. That sort of looks like family. The 10 of Pentacles can be family. I sort of said there could be some sort of family issue here for some of you. This is in your bloodline and you may be doing it very differently to your bloodline. Or you may even take on a cause that's opposite to what your family bloodline does or something like that. Doesn't have to be that, but for some of you it may well be that. Beyond that, this is embodying the power with the sense of the emotional heart and energy. Having defrosted the heart, you then embody the power because you have the watery energy, you have the heart energy there. It needs to be done in that order, really, I think. Or actually, no, yeah, it does. You need to have defrosted first and then you can actually embody the power. So that's the 2 steps. It's like understanding where you froze your heart up and you weren't able to do it in this soul activation. You weren't. And you've come through this and now you've realized what skills you have. So now you can defrost the rest of it. And this is coming into a more authentic, embodied power. So that's important. All right. So that's taking you through the resurrection. What impact does this have on other people around you? Because I think it's very important when we're going through this and we're coming into our power that we see that. So we're just going to card from the Gospel of Aradia. How does our soul activation and getting to this point impact others around us? Resistance. Okay, there could be some resistance from others. I do think this is something you're going to be facing. People who have not gone through this yet, who will be resisting, who maybe like to be in a victim mentality or family things that don't like the way that you deal. Like, you do need to realize this is why your magic and your sense of self needs to be so important, and that you need to know that now you're moving forward to heal situations. First, you're going to hit some resistance. That's okay. That's why it's important to embody your power and to have got the extra skills that unfreezing your heart has allowed you to get. Okay, so what's your new mythic role? We're going to get a couple of cards from the Greek mythos deck just to sort of see how this may play out going forward. So remember, this is just mythical. This is an allegory of how you use your new mastery. Kronos. Now that's interesting that fell there. I'm going to go back to that. But this is something for many of you about dealing with old family patterns, definitely. And Cerberus. Oh, yeah, okay. Part of this, to be honest for you, is that you will go through the resurrection. You will ascend. You will find your kind of balance, all of those sort of things, and you will move forward to heal others. But you are often going to be pulled back into these energies. Like you are going to become the advocate to deal with it for others. The reason I say that is, firstly, Kronos was the original king of heaven who swallowed his children whole rather than be usurped, and eventually he was tricked and Zeus grew up. He is about time, he is about structure, he is about the things that have almost become karmic and repetitive. So there's something in here, there's something in your family line, whether you know about consciously or whether it's something a bit further back, where there was a kind of a freezing over, a wintry sort of energy, and maybe a lot of rivalry. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of rivalry in your family line in some form, whether directly to you or there's almost the ghosts of it around you. So there's something in understanding that, because in going forward now with your magic and with your understanding and all the skills and with the open heart and the creative energy and wanting to bring spring in rather than having everything in winter, you do need to understand that there will be the resistance from the force that is more about freezing everything over. So part of this is going to be about that. You need that understanding of the karmic cycles and so forth. And you need the capacity to go down into the shadow and feel protected whenever you do it. So Cerberus, as the three-headed dog, protects the underworld. So I think this is, you are protected and your power is protected, but you are going to have to deal with these sort of things. It's like if you're trying to bring health and well-being to an organization, a group of people, in a therapeutic way or whatever, you do have to go to the depths of what is actually wrong here and what habits, patterns and so forth and karma has brought it about. You have to be able to do that, even if you meet resistance, to be able to do the healing and to use your magic. So there is a kind of, and that also fits with death being the card that is your activator at this point. It's like you will be comfortable in and protected in the underworld to be able to understand the shadows enough to heal them. So that's really powerful, pile one. So let's see what angels will protect you. So we're going to get 3 angels or other spirit guides, and then we're going to get 3 stars to align to those guides for you. So the angels to protect and guide you now that you've reached this mastery. Firstly, Archangel Haniel, friendship, moon cycle, psychic ability. Psychic ability fits with death as well too. It's a Scorpio card. You will probably find that your psychic abilities are enhanced, particularly by connecting to the heart and defrosting. You will have friends. You will have good people. It's not going to be all people against you at all, but you know, you will also need to understand the cycles of the moon are very important for this and for when you connect into your power and into your magic. We also have Goddess Kuan Yin. Oh, beautiful. So this is some very gentle energies around you because you're dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. But this is also to keep you connected to your heart. keeping the kindness, the divine mercy, all of those sort of things, the compassion. And Archangel Raphael, healing. Yeah, healing. You're moving into healing. There is a connection because there's a healing energy in pile 3 as well too. So there is some connection for some of you. For some of you, you may be an amalgam of both and you might have been watching it all the way through. But in any case, this is something, your advocacy, your connection to your heart, your creativity, your new growth, all of that sort of stuff heals you and heals others. But it does mean that you have to keep going through these cycles of the seasons, of the moon cycles, all of those sort of things. So let's see the stars to guide you in relation to each of these spirit guides that you have. With Haniel, we have Capricorn. Ambition, resilience, authenticity, and determination. So when you are in positions of power, money, authority, and all of that sort of thing, you're going to have a very acute psychic ability to know what's going on and who are allies and who are resistors. You are also going to be able to find your friends. You will be able to do this in the material world. Goddess Kuan Yin, where the compassion and kindness energy is necessary. Gemini, versatility, self-expression, curiosity in communication. This keeps your communication kind, compassionate, even when you are maybe met by stuff that isn't that way. This is how you remain a very good advocate and very good influencer. And for Raphael, the healing energy, Vega, luminosity, creativity, talent, and fame. So there was a creative instinct all the way through this as well too. So there could be, for some of you, the way that you actually reconcile and bring all this together and become more of an influencer is to do something that's more creative, to move away from positional power to influential power. And through your creativity, you heal. So that's one particular way that you could do it. Okay, so to finish off, so basically I believe that you have started on a journey where knowledge and understanding of the system you were in and the power and the role that you had has taken you through a soul activation to take on a stewardship, a leadership level, to bring the heart back to things, to deal with all the issues that are associated with that. And then in really involving this, you needed to clear your own heart energy, needed to do a descent into the underworld to ascend with that understanding and with owning your power. Going forward, you are meant to be a creator, a healer, and an advocate. That's been your journey. That's been your soul activation. So let us just finish with a blessing. This blessing may be linked completely to this last stage, or it may be a longer term blessing that comes to you as a result of having had this soul activation process. Pole 1. A blessing for a mother. So I think that is about creativity. It's creativity and family and the heart. What are you birthing? Again, there's this sense of like, that almost looks like coming into the forest at springtime. What are you birthing? What are you creating in the end out of all of this? There is something very creative at its core, but there is also something about healing and taking people through very material situations and so forth to be able to get the sort of freedom and understanding that you've been able to get. So I hope that this journey has been enlightening and helpful. I hope that it gives you support as your soul activates during this period. I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome to your reading, pile 2. So, really interesting ending, I can see. Not ending, but, the sort of like culmination of your soul activation. It makes perfect sense to me that the High Priestess would be the activating energy for the resurrection, which is the going within to fully inculcate the lessons, the energies, the experiences of the soul activation, and then to ascend and then to come into the full mastery. So because we've been looking at the journey of a prophet, we found through the journey of the prophet that once the prophet has actually been proven right and has actually had influence and seen things, you in your last reading, if you went to it, there was a real moral dilemma around how much you could use that influence for your own gain and how much you couldn't. What is changeable in the universe? What isn't? What is the nature of free will? What is your creative mastery? How might that influence the future? All of those sort of things, which then when you're looking at the resurrection energy, it makes sense that you would go within for the illumination within with the High Priestess, because your power is very much of that kind of the mystery energy. And that's where you would find your answers. Now, the interesting thing is that the resurrection process, what you have to face when you are bringing all this in, and this is a moral choice that only you can make, Pile 2, is what is the price of victory? This is the victor's blade. And this talks about you may be put in a situation as part of this resurrection or following the resurrection in your mastery where you are called to protect somebody or something very dear. And you may determine at that point that to use the victor's blade, your ability, all of the stuff that you know, and you may see this, you may see a prophecy and know that this is the case. The ends justify the means. You have to make that decision. Only you can make that decision. But of course there are consequences if you overstretch the power or something like that. So your resurrection energy is to understand the extent of your power, the extent of your victory, and then what are your boundaries? And the interesting thing is that the answer may be, when you go within and you look at that and you think about the mysteries and all the sort of things that you have learned with the sort of power and energy that you have, is that there is a different way to battle. You don't have to battle using the magical power and all that kind of thing in a way that could be ruthless. You can actually, with the mastery of this, bring to the light, because this is the bringers of light through your communication, the influence that allows other people of good heart and free will to come to conclusions that a battle is not necessary. So remember, we started this whole journey, and it's been all the way through. The first big struggle around all this is the prophet is not recognized in their own land. There's a lot of resistance, a lot of I don't want to hear it. And it wouldn't be unusual to, once you've realized that you were right, you've been proven right, not everybody's admitted it, because that won't happen. That won't happen for a prophet. Some will, but some won't. To sort of feel, you know what, now I have the power, now I have the foresight, I'm actually the person who's best suited to decide and make the decisions and the judgments and so forth, and if that seems a bit ruthless, it's what's necessary, etc. But there is actually a different way of doing it. It is learning from all of this and from your mastery, how to communicate what you see in a different way so that you're not in a battle, but you're in a collaboration. And you're bringing the shadows to light, so you're not creating more shadows for yourself. So I think this is the culmination and the understanding and how to balance and bring into the light the moral ambiguity, so that you don't necessarily do by any means necessary. You only use that power and the victory when it has to be done for the cause of good. So it's very interesting, therefore, what we have here in terms of the Gnostic Tarot. We have the Gnostic Queen of Swords. So this is the mind. This is the part that could be a bit sharp, that could be a bit ruthless. It could go, you know what? I'm right. And I'm not going to faff around about this. I'm right. But there could be a cost to that. So beautifully, you have the Gnostic King of Cups. So here there is an understanding about the role of the heart and emotional empathy and so forth, to be able to make a emotionally mature decision. And then we have the Seven of Wands, Naria's journey, Valor. We have the courage to do that. The courage to also be within the heart as well as within the mind. And this is what's mediated here through your own intuition, so that you can communicate the vision in a more strong way. So let's have a look at the affirmations. The affirmation for the High Priestess is, my magic is powerful and my intuition is strong. You've had that all along. You've known the intuition. You're a prophet. What you've proven is it's magic as well, that you are a true creature of the mysteries. So you know that. Your question now is how to deal with that, because that, as I've said in the last reading and in this reading, brings a moral dilemma in that the average person doesn't have to deal with. So then we look at the affirmation for the sword, or the victor's blade. I rise victorious, I overcome all hindrances and defeat all opponents. So you can do that. With your combination of magic, creative magic, and prophecy, and seeing the future beyond other people, seeing the chess moves 10 moves ahead, you could always win. The question is, what's the price of that? And what are the true opponents and what ways of dealing with it? So then we come to the affirmation of truly mastering what you have. And that is, with this sigil, I capture the light of the moon and the sun to cleanse and purify all who see or touch it. So this is like combining the sort of creative impulse, with the intuitive impulse, the mind with the heart, and bringing these things to light. So for the true mastery of this, you do bring this into balance and you know how to temper the power that you have. But that, of course, is part of the resurrection journey, and how you balance that and in what way is your own moral journey. Only you can decide. So let's get a little bit more information. Let's have a look at, or actually before we do that, let's look at what stage of life or place in life this mastery is first going to be tested or exemplified. Career and business. So this power and energy or whatever, something around career, business, money, resources, that's where you'll first be potentially tempted, but also potentially given the opportunity to fully master and influence it in the most positive way. What is the advice for you when this comes into play? Honour yourself. Recognise the hard work you've put in to get where you are today. Instead of thinking how far you still have to go, remind yourself of all that you've accomplished and be proud. So I think this is part of the thing that could tilt you over into the cooler, colder energy of this rather than the King of Cups, is if you feel not recognised, if you feel like you have to do more to prove that you've won or any of those things. But if you honour what you've really found, which is a very deep power, then you're less likely to go the victor's blade. You're more likely to go the communication mind, particularly in matters where sort of money, career, recognition and so forth are concerned. So let's use the Lumen Tarot and let's have a look at a bit more about what are the challenges of the resurrection for you. And then we're going to sort of see how this process can help you integrate and ascend. So firstly, it's all the challenges of the resurrection energy. The Jack of Swords, which is the Knight of Swords. The Handmaid of Cups, which is the Page of Cups. The Hanged Man. Tranquility. And the Jack of Cups, which is the Knight of Cups. There's a lot of people associated with this, I would say, firstly. There's 3 court cards there. Sometimes that's your own energy, but I feel like it's other people. And your impact on other people is the core part of what you're trying to incorporate, resurrect, clear, and ascend with. You want to do it very, very quickly. But it's almost like your ideas around this are ahead of your heart. So you're needing to kind of like slow that down a bit to let your heart catch up to what you're doing. Like your mind, it's very, very quick, as it would be with a prophet. You know, your mind probably goes at 1,000 miles an hour. What this process, if it works for you, is meant to do is to bring you a sense of tranquility and what that would be and how the heart can catch up with the mind. That's really what this is about. If the heart catches up with the mind in the sort of resurrection phase, then it would be almost impossible for you to misuse this power. It's only if you leave the heart behind, having done a lot with the heart all the way through, if you leave it behind now and go back to now I do know and I saw and I was right and I'm going to go forward with this, that's where you could end up with an issue. You need to slow it down. And you have to sacrifice just a little bit of your power for tranquility. If you think about it, power, you know, like people who have power, they say uneasy is the head that wears the crown. Like there is more tranquility in not being as powerful or not exerting your power as much on other people. So I think it's something about that, getting calm and tranquil with the concept that I can't just rush into this now. I need to keep connected to my heart and also know how to communicate in a way that's empathic with other people. That way, this is the best way that I can use this sort of energy. Okay, so if that's the sort of the challenge of it, to not rush ahead going, well, I was right, because you will have been right. You were right all along. That's not really the point. What will be helpful in the resurrection thing to help you ascend, to get to the highest good form of your soul activation. Pile 2. The Knight of Pentacles, the 7 of Swords, Autumn, the Rose. The Rose is about love, spiritual love, other forms of love. It's also a very strong alchemical symbol, so transformative energy, connecting your sort of bodily passions with your spirit. So there's a bit of a combination of that, a breakthrough that occurs with that. This is saying what will ultimately happen and what is the best way to anchor this and make you kind of not end up doing the morally ambivalent, but doing the thing that is best served for the highest good, is that if you allow this to slow down and you allow your heart to come to the rise, you will work out a cause that you can use all your cleverness and your future thinking and all of that for, but you'll have a cause. It's like maybe one of the things that was happening with the prophecy before and all of that in the beginning is that it was just you saw things coming, and you were just trying to get somebody to listen to you and see it. Whereas now it's like you know and you've mastered it. It's like, where do you put that brilliance? Where do you put that strategic insight that comes from having the foresight, having the psychic ability to a cause? And there is something that you went through in this that you have to let die away. It's as though whatever you turned out to be right about, you have to kind of leave that behind. It's sort of like you don't keep bringing it out and say, here's my resume, so I was right. Because in fact, it's your intuitive power and your communication and so forth going forward and how you connected to your heart. That is what will make you powerful, will make people listen to you. I've been saying this all along because I think it is true for people who are prophetic. There will be a certain number of people who have a functioning memory and will go, actually, you were right. And it will be self-actualized enough to not feel worried, to say, actually, I was wrong and now I've learned and I'm going to move on. But there are plenty of people who will never admit they were wrong. So they're either going to double down on something even when it's been proven wrong, or they're just not going to acknowledge that it occurred. So I do think that part of this resurrection is to let go of the former win in the sense of letting it fertilize the new energy, just as the autumn, the leaves fertilize the ground, rather than continually sort of looking at glory days. It's like you're meant to have a cause and move forward now and connect to your heart. That's the best way to do this, because you are going to hit some of those frustrations again. And as I say, the people who were never going to listen to you are never going to listen to you now. And it doesn't matter. You just need to move on with those who will and where you can help with all of this. Okay, so let's use the Children of Litha Tarot and let's say, what is the true mastery energy that comes through where you're using your communication to bring things to the light and using that to influence rather than just sheer kind of creative chaos magic or something like that? What is the mastery at its best for you? And what does it bring you? What challenges might it bring you? The Hermit, the King of Pentacles reversed, the Two of Swords, the Two of Cups reversed, the Devil reversed, the Seven of Pentacles reversed. Okay, you had the Tower a lot in this. What I have to say is that this ability that you have, this soul activation, was to get you ready for other situations like that. Your mastery is now what you've learned in managing that. You have a mastery to see where things are no longer going to grow, where things in the King of Pentacles reverse, where systems are going to fall, material things are going to fall, things are going to change. You are to liberate that energy and to bring into balance the head and the heart in the very early decision making, like to get in on the ground floor of something using your spiritual ability. So this is why there's probably a little bit of a risk with the Victor's Blade around this, and why it's so important that you stay in your heart, because this is saying that one of the lessons that you might have learnt in this is that you might have waited a long time to communicate your prophecy. And that might be why it was hard to get people convinced, because they were so embedded in something, even if you turned out to be right later on. Whereas if you communicate early, because this is all about bringing things to the light, if you communicate really early where something is not going to last anymore, it has to shift, it has to be liberated, right at the early stages where the first decisions are being made, then you can bring a spiritual side to the decision making that could avoid a lot of the calamity of this. Even if the change still needs to happen, the Tower moment still needs to happen, if you talk earlier in a way that people can accept and connect with, then you might be able to influence the choices of others rather than using magic to bring about what you want. So it becomes more of the free will sort of energy. And you may be able to influence all the choices at first that could maybe even on occasion save something from falling apart. So I think that part of understanding the mastery and knowing you're right and the confidence is so that you act earlier in these situations and find the right people to communicate with. And in some cases, they may be the same people who actually did see it and know to listen to you. This person is right. I'm going to listen to them now. So I think there's something in that space. So your mastery is now to have more confidence when you see the tower moments coming, to be able to speak earlier and influence the decision making earlier. Okay, so when we're doing that, when we're bringing this in, and particularly in something that's so morally ambivalent, as I keep saying, we do need to really know our shadow. We need to descend before we ascend. So it's implicit in the concept of resurrection that we effectively, quote unquote, die first, not literally, but that we descend first and then we heal and ascend. So we're going to look with the Lilith and the Machine Oracle. We're going to look at shadow energy that is part of the descent, and then we're going to look at the alchemy energy that helps you rise and resurrect out of that. So the shadow, two types of shadow energy to deal with. Firstly, we have the broken, addiction, damaged, wounded. There could be those who were really, really badly affected by whatever that tower moment was. And you may need to be sort of working out what you mean and what you feel in terms of your compassion or lack of that for them. Particularly as remember with the victor's blade, it's kind of like, what's the collateral damage of victory? So there may be something there about what responsibility do you have there? What's the boundaries of that responsibility? And the other shadow energy is the intimate, fear, incompatibility, love. This is how this impacts those that you most care about. Again, this was saying you may decide to use your power by all means necessary when you're looking after somebody you care about. But what's the collateral damage? I think this is what we're seeing here. So let's see the alchemy to come out of the broken energy and to not have that kind of collateral damage. How do you ascend for that? Mars, okay, taking action earlier, being strong, being the knight for this, being the one who takes on the battle. You may in fact find that one of the ways of dealing with this is to find causes, because we did see that are to help the broken, the less powerful, those that are not able to do what you can do. So that may be one way that you deal with that. And then in terms of alchemizing any vulnerabilities you might have about those you hold most dear, wow, the red and white rose. So this is about combining your physical passion and your passion for those of your blood and all of that kind of thing with your spiritual ideals. And it's a transformative energy. So again, what may be the best way that you may be able to help those that you hold dear is to, in a sense, teach them some of what you know, some of how you can do the prophecy, bring that energy out, get them on a spiritual ascension rather than just always looking after them. Because if you look after them, you may affect your own karma, your own sort of purity, because we do. I mean, like we always do probably fight more for those that we care for than ourselves. We're more likely to be self-sacrificial about ourselves. So that could be a weak point in all of this. So helping them spiritually may be the best thing that you can do, helping them understand how to alchemize that energy. Okay, so then let's have a look at the impact on others that you will have as a result of this mastery. Your impact you'll have, or what other people might respond with. Sisterhood, well, that's beautiful. You are going to find some people who are your people. This is why you can operate earlier in the piece. There will be those, for all that there are going to be those that kind of would never admit they were wrong in a million years, there are also going to be those that connect with you and see what you brought to the table. So that's really, really lovely. All right. Let's see the kind of energies, mythic energies that you may be now going to embody with this new mastery using the Greek mythos deck. Now, these may be wonderful or they may be ambivalent as well, so we'll just see what the energy is. Helios, the sun, bringing the light, yeah, the sun energy, bringing things to light, bringing things to the surface, and also having like a positive impact. I think of that saying, sunlight is the best disinfectant. There's a truth teller energy around this, bringing things out of the mystery into the light. And Athena, clever as, you're really clever, very strategic, very able to communicate, bring things to the light and communicate it in a way that's very, very strategic. So you're moving into that space of knowing how your prophetic ability and your magical ability helps you on that level. Okay, so let's get you some spirit team guides now that you're sort of closing out on this soul activation to guide you going forward. And we'll also look at some astrological support that connects to each of those guides. So we're going to get you 3 guides as part of the closing out of this series. So firstly, Archangel Raziel. Well, that's going right to the mysteries. This is you as the magician. You absolutely are. The magician, the high priestess, all of that. So you're always going to have that connection to the higher order information. Archangel Raguel, relationship healing, calm, harmony. This is where you can deal with the heart and deal with relationships and think about the impact on other people. Raguel will help you with that. Keep you centered in your heart. And Goddess Lakshmi, so prosperity, beauty, and fortune. You will actually have good fortune coming out of this. You will be able to manifest things that you want to manifest. Okay, let's see. Oh, I just paused there because I thought a delivery was coming and I knocked the camera. Let's see the stars to guide, connecting to these guides for you. So that's sort of astrological support. So with Archangel Raziel, your connection to your inner magician, your inner high priestess. Virgo, practicality, patience, organization, details. This is bringing it into the material world, giving it a system, giving it order, all of that kind of thing. What can be materialized, what can be manifest. Virgo is also an integration point of energy. So it's a very psychic energy. So that could be showing that energy for you. Then around Raguel, which is around the calm, harmony and connection, the sisterhood, all of those sort of energies for you. Arcturus, strong will, pioneer, forward-thinking, change-making. Your connections now with your prophecy and your sense of the future, they kind of connect together to have a combined and collaborative future. So this is where you can get past any of this moral ambiguity. And then in terms of prosperity, beauty, fortune, what is your reward out of all of this? The sun, yeah, and the Helios again, vitality, life force, energy. You have found who you are. This is, you are this. And so owning that is fine. It's then the responsibility of what you deal with it. And this gives you the sort of like the connection for the future in collaboration with others. This gives you the wisdom to manifest something that is healthy, because Virgo is healthy as well structured, well ordered. Okay, so basically what I want to do is close out with a blessing. So for you, the journey has been the journey of a prophet who became a magician. That's basically the journey. And in doing it, you have a power and an ability that could be used in many different ways. You always have to regulate this for yourself. Only you can. But if you go towards the heart, the connection with others, you will find the people you want. If you go towards having causes, you will find you'll have all the support from the universe and rewards for doing it. So let's just see a final blessing from this, which could be something that occurs at the point of this all coming together, or it could be something that occurs quite a bit down the line because of this soul activation. But we'll just see what that blessing is for you. A blessing for a fresh start. So you will actually shift away a lot of stuff, a lot of frustrations. I think the frustrations of being a prophet and not being heard, there will still be some people like that, but by and large, you're going to find your people. By and large, you're going to get into your groove, so to speak. Your life path is found. You know who you are now. That's what this soul activation was meant to be. So I hope that you've enjoyed the series. If this is the first one you've seen, go back and see the rest, because your story is fascinating, part 2. But I hope if you have seen the series, you've enjoyed it. I hope that it's been a revelation for you about who you are, because this is a very profound group. I think very important for the world that we're in. I wish you the very, very best with it. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe, comment if you would like to share. But beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the star card to enter these last two stages of this soul activation, which is around the resurrection, where you go within, you descend to take in all the learnings, to work out what to let go and to what to then ascend and become, and then you become the master of what has come here. Now, the interesting thing for you is in the last reading, if you've been following it all the way through with the piles, which is what I have suggested that people do, is that the fundamental question when you had received your reward for kind of diverting from this creative path, fast, quick creativity, sort of like moving with things, keeping everything in balance and so forth, divert it off to actually use those skills to heal. There was a question. Do you continue to be the healer? Is that your path? Is that your star? Because the star came up as a question there. Or was that just a diversion? Or is it some combination of both? Now, I do think that we're seeing the answer here for most of you, but ultimately it is something you have to decide for yourself. Firstly, the fact that we have the star here, it's saying that at this point of the resurrection, of really incorporating and integrating what this is, and then moving to your mastery, what your life path is, what your North Star is, what gives you joy and inspiration is very essential here. It's not just about, what do other people need? So it's a bit of a guiding star, quite literally, for you. But the interesting thing is the process of going into the resurrection is a similar card, if not the card, I think, that might have actually taken us on this diversion in the first place. This is the staff of Asclepius, I think it is. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but it's effectively the staff of the healer. So this is definitely saying that you need to integrate the healing. At the very least, it's not something that was just a diversion, never to use again. At the very least, it is a skill to integrate. But I do think that there's more than that, because this is the card of the prophet. Now, what interests me about all of this is that there's almost a kind of an interchange that's going across all three piles at various stages. So I think there's some real similarities in some of these sort of soul activations, but they operate at different levels and with a different focus. For you, what you have learnt, how you find your star, your North Star here, what you have learned and you absorbed from the healing process that you went through makes you a much better barometer moving forward for what the future is likely to hold. It gives you a nuance and empathy and understanding that you possibly didn't have before you did this. So even if you are staying with being a healer and therefore you use the prophetic ability to do almost preventive medicine, preventive therapeutics, all that kind of thing in whatever way it might be, or whether it is that healing modality, that sense of empathy and so forth, now means you're much more precise in seeing what's coming. So when you're trying to balance all the things, move quickly and create in maybe a chaotic sort of environment, you are meant to incorporate this. It wasn't just a diversion. The issue is whether it's a diversion to a healer with a sense of prophecy or a prophet and creator who also can heal. And the interesting thing here is that choice is yours. We have here Christ's journey, which is swords, with the Two of Swords. So there are two options here. There are definitely two options. And in fact, there's even a middle path between them, if you have a look at this. So this is the fundamental thing. When you are going into the resurrection and when you're deciding who you are going to be, you do have the choice here. It's what is your North Star. And it's saying slow down long enough to do it. Because this is the Chariot and it's reversed. And the Chariot has the Abraxas figure. And I think I've mentioned in some of the readings, I'm not sure if it's come up in any for Pile 3, but Abraxas is like the God above God within Gnosticism. It is a entity of duality, good and evil, light and shadow, all of the things sort of become kind of one, but it's still also dual, if that makes sense, within Abraxas. So right at the beginning of all of this, there was a sense for you about dealing with sort of managing different balances, because you started with the Chariot. So your capacity to balance differences, opposites and so forth has always been a part of this. So what this is saying is that this process you're meant to slow down enough to work out, how do I get that back into balance? All of those sort of energies. And we have Christ's journey, so swords again, with the Three of Swords reversed. Now, the Three of Swords in this has the demiurge. So the cause of all pain and suffering in the material world in Gnosticism is the demiurge, who created this earth and then wanted us sort of like slaves. And this is why we have to get Gnosis to rise above it. So there is something here about the choice about whether to be a healer with prophetic sort of abilities and creative abilities, or to be a creator who also heals, has a lot to do with what is the pain that you want to heal in others and yourself. What is the imbalance that needs to be freed from? So it's your choice, and it's probably down to the circumstances. And you may even be able to go down one road for a while and then go into the center and then go off this. I think this is meant to show you that you have a long-term aim, which is almost like that sun in the distance there, or a star, but there are many roads that you can go on. And you can change them when you need to change them. But it's to do it as a conscious choice, having understood this ability that you've brought to the surface, and now you're meant to integrate. So let's see, let's do the affirmations first. So the affirmation for the star is, I find beauty, clarity, and inspiration both in times of hardship and prosperity. This might be why also the healing is an energy that you need to bring in, because you are sometimes going to be dealing with your hardship and also other people's hardship, and bringing things into balance and being able to foresee that so that you can actually make the early decisions that can avoid the worst of the hardship. And so you heal by prevention rather than by cure, in a sense. Then if we have a look at the affirmation for the staff of Asclepius, I am a capable healer. My hands protect and preserve life. And light. I said light. I'm going to take that as being a Freudian slip. Light and life. So this is part of who you are. This is something you're meant to bring within in the resurrection phase. And then the affirmation for the prophet is, I receive visions of the past, present and future. I interpret that which lies beyond the veil to the betterment of all. So this is a visionary energy as well, and I think it has been enhanced by the empathy that has built through this soul activation, so that you now truly can see more clearly what your life path is and make the choices you need to make to keep things in balance. And as I say, to prevent pain, agony, difficult situations, rather than just trying to cure them. So let's see the life area that this sort of like integration and mastery is most likely to first manifest in for you. Friends and family. So I think you may go, okay, where I sit on this depends on the people I care about most, and what pain or misery I want to avoid for them, what I would want to heal in them. What is good relationship? What is the advice for you in this stage of the soul activation? Pause. Oh yes, pause. A much needed time out is in order. You've worked hard and dedicated a lot of time and energy. Take a break and reflect on all of your accomplishments. You deserve it. So don't feel you have to rush into anything yet. You'll have, with this sense here, a good sense of when you do have to get started again. But allow yourself to stop and think about it. With the Chariot reversed, with the Abraxas reversed, you don't have to rush anything. You've achieved a lot in this soul activation. Now you need to give yourself time to incorporate it and work out what your decisions are about what paths you want to go down. So let's see with the tarot a little bit about the resurrection phase, what you go through, what that experience is going to be like for you in bringing. The resurrection phase is in truly integrating that which you want to take forward from this experience. And we often have to go within and into shadow and work out what to leave behind with more clarity than we did sort of in the road back in the last reading. So what is the resurrection energy like? The moon reversed, the servant, oh, that's interesting. Resistance, the Eight of Coins reversed, the Well reversed. Okay. Firstly, just looking at the traditional tarot, the Eight of Coins reversed to me always says that you've mastered something. This is a point of mastery. So it's just basically saying you'll realize that. You'll realize that this healing energy that you're integrating is part of your mastery to really fully activate your soul. You will also be bringing a lot to the surface and answering some mysteries for yourself in this process. Maybe things that you never realized about yourself or you never understood are going to become clearer. Now, the servant is a really interesting thing because this is about who we serve and how we serve. And servants can be both those, like a samurai who serves a master out of a kind of a spiritual honor. And then we can also have slaves. So there's issues here about the proper kind of service you would do for others or expect of others. And it's very interesting the way that they're portrayed, because in one hand there's some orders and in one hand there's the sword. And I just want to read you from the book because it says, in this case, however, being careful to adhere to the motto engraved on the sword of Italian mercenary Giovanni della Bonde Nere, do not unsheath me without reason, do not yield me without valor. So there are orders that can be given that you give yourself or others, and then there are also battles to be had. And so it's what are you in service to? Bringing to the surface, like what is this all going to be in service to? This is a fundamental thing and will help you decide. Because sometimes what you're in service to may be to heal others. Sometimes it may be to avoid battle strategically by seeing it coming and freeing people from pain. You will have your own internal resistance to some of this, and you will also be understanding that some of what you're going to do going forward with this will be resisted. That makes perfect sense with the prophecy card. In fact, one of the other piles through all of this was a prophet, and I kept saying a prophet is not recognized in their own land, at least not initially, until they start to prove themselves at the very best. So you know that there's going to be some resistance to some of what you are bringing to the surface. And it's interesting that Venus is there. Finding how to deal with that with love is going to be more important with healing than just in battling it. So it's much better to be connecting to what do you serve rather than what do you fight here. And you have the mastery to do it. The well reversed is interesting as well too, because that's going into the depths, definitely. But when it's reversed, it's coming out to the light. So this is saying that the resurrection, the mastery that you have is the thing that will bring you out to the light. And it shows it's connected to the mangrove tree. So it's saying there's difficult conditions that this mastery lives in, but it's going to come to the light. So I feel like it's just basically saying that what your resurrection energy will be, understanding you're the healer, understanding why that was important, understanding how that's part of your mastery, and then working out how do you best use this skill. Like it's almost you go straight into the, okay, when would I kind of take it out of my pocket and use it, and when would I not? And that helps you make decisions about what to do. So let's see the experience that you have during resurrection. If that is kind of the overarching energy, what's the sort of experience and how does it help you ascend towards your mastery? Heaven reversed, so it's very much of the earth. Ace of Coins, yeah, and about things that you can bring into being, things that you can create, new businesses, new ideas, new births, whatever it might be. Jack of Cups, so something that is of the heart. Handmaid of Cups. Okay. This is saying that although there's this sort of prophecy energy that you're going to, this is you bringing this energy, the energy of the star, the energy of hope and inspiration, the energy of healing to earth. You're not meant to go and sort of sit in a monastery and contemplate your navel. You're actually meant to do something with people. And it's meant to sort of like bring in a new material energy. And it could bring love to you if you're looking for love, but beyond that, I think it's kind of finding the different levels of maturity of hearts of the people that are around you, because that will help you find the people that will work with you and hear what you have to say. That will help you find the people you need to heal. So there's something here about getting a nuancing of the heart. That's why you need to slow down a bit, because you're not, heaven is almost pulling back. You will get prophecy, but at the end of the day, heaven is a bit pulling back and saying, you create this now. You create this from your heart, but you need to sort of like understand and bring in the learnings that you had about different people's emotional maturity, that kind of thing, and what is possible to create almost separate to the spiritual and psychic. What are the rules of the material world when there is something that you're trying to bring into being? So this is all part of this. It's like the healing is very material. The heart is how you differentiate where something is up to, how you kind of assess or diagnose almost what's going on. And at that point with the healing, that's not when the prophecy comes in, that comes in later. So you'll understand your prophetic ability after you've got this into balance. So let's have a look with the children of Letha, what the outcome is, the mastery, where the prophetic ability now comes in, when you have actually brought all that together and understood why this diversion happened and why it could actually be part of your pathway going forward. Ace of Swords reversed. The Moon. Now you see, when you go in the resurrection, you're bringing things up to the surface. When you are in the prophecy, you are working out what you can and can't speak of, what you can and can't bring up to the surface. Understanding people's emotional maturity and capacity is very, very important for that. The Hanged Man, knowing when to slow down, because you have a lot of speed and energy. We've shown that from the beginning. 3 of Cups reversed, slowing down and working out when you need to recalibrate, when the emotional energy is out of whack. The 10 of Pentacles, this is so that you can create things that are healthy and sustainable into the future. And that did actually come up before for you, like what can you sustain? And again, this has to do with the emotional maturity and like, can you walk away from this or do you have to stay in it? Some of that has to do with what it is that needs to come up and the readiness and the maturity of the people around you. And the Fool, you will find a new journey, a new adventure coming out of this. I think it's saying, like, one of the things that did come up for you in the last one was, you know, if you moved into something new, if you moved away from the healing, could it sustain? I think it's saying it can, but I think it's saying that you may go into a new adventure that also takes that legacy with it and that health and that focus with it. But whatever it is, you at first see the future of where you're going. You don't speak of it to start with, because you know you've done a good assessment of what the land is like, where people are ready to hear and not hear. You know how to make something last and when to be ready to move, because you brought all these things together. So that capacity to assess how much you have to be actively involved and how much you can kind of pass the baton and move on, you've worked that out by the time you've mastered this. You can make a very good informed decision about that. So as I said, to get to this point, you have to descend to ascend. So what I want to do is I want to have a look at some shadow energy you go into when you descend, you know, so that you can then resurrect, so that you can integrate what is right, and then the alchemical process that helps you in the resurrection, in the ascension. So firstly, the future. Adventure like infinity. That makes sense, that where you're heading towards is the concept of the future and prophecy. So you may have some ambivalence about the future. Others around you may have some ambivalence about the future. You may be thinking that there are unhealthy signs, material or otherwise, in the future. So what do you think? Are you an optimist or a pessimist? Are you in the optimistic hope energy of the star, or are you in the more pessimistic energy of the moon reversed and possibly the moon here? You may need to examine your idea about what is the future of this soul activation. Why do you have it, and how does it fit with a broader future in the world or in your community or in your family or with your loved ones? The other shadow energy to look at is the Judge, retribution, triumph and discipline. So I think this is, if you have become much more empathic, but you're worried about the future and about what people do, there is a shadow energy here of not so much healing, but manipulating, because you've already decided who is mature enough, who isn't mature enough, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of a shadow here about when you've got that empathy and that creative energy and you can balance things, that you are truly balanced, that there isn't some sort of shadow energy around judgment for you. So let's have a look at the alchemy that helps you. So the alchemy that helps you in dealing with any shadow aspects you have or attitudes around the future. Venus, the heart. Love. What would you love? Who do you love? what is their future. Focus on that, not the rest of it all, because, you could get overwhelmed as the prophet. So where is love in the future? And around the judgment, which would also help with being the judge, not being too judgmental, by the focus being on those you love. We also, the moon. There's a lot about the moon for you. Hide your judgments. You're going to have them. We all do, let's face it. But hide them. They don't have to be articulated. You may also feel too with the moon in the alchemy thing is sometimes feeling like a lesser sister to the sun, so to speak. So there may be an energy where you don't want to judge people who don't see who you are fully, who don't appreciate who you are fully. Because this sort of healing energy and knowing this sort of, not everybody's going to be able to get it, not everybody's going to be at your level. They're not all going to have been activated in this way. So you may have to watch where you would judge those who don't quickly see what you're trying to bring. Because you yourself are going to be hiding it a bit because you know you need to. So I think there's some sort of stuff here about coming from your heart, not feeling that you're seen as lesser or judging others as lesser. That's all part of this energy to properly incorporate the healing energy that you've brought out and the healing skill that you've brought out. So let's see how that plays out either in the way that people respond to you or how you're connecting to the community more generally as a result of this soul activation process. Truth. Yeah, because it is about the truth. And that's where you would get the prophecy. But it's like, what truth can you speak and when? When will truth be heard and when will it not be heard? When is truth necessary for healing? So, like a doctor has to tell someone if they have a serious condition so that, there's some hope of healing or managing it. If you just sort of went, oh, no, that's fine, you don't have anything, then that's not helping anything. So it's when and how is the truth best brought to the surface? When is the prophecy talked about? So that's an important sort of energy for you. Let's also see what mythological power you may be manifesting as a result of this soul activation. And this could be, we're using Greek mythology, it could be further challenges or it could be blessings. Because just because you've gone through one soul activation process doesn't mean there aren't others to come, I guess is what I'm getting at. So what we have firstly, Hecate, this is, you can go into the depths. There's a lot of power and a lot of knowing in you. This is also the prophetic sort of energy. But you do know the darkness. To heal, you have to know the darkness. A doctor has to know, what would I have to look for to diagnose cancer, for instance? I can't just ignore it. So there is something here in being able to deal with the darker power and all that kind of energy. And Aphrodite, but to still do it with love, to do it in a way that is attractive to others, that others can hear, that others can be healed. So this is very much, and very divine feminine with both Hecate and Aphrodite here. So this is the sort of empathy, and this is the kind of the I can see the shadow, and this is the light and the shadow. This is the balance. You've always been a very balanced person, and you always come back to almost homeostasis, which fits with the kind of healing energy as well. That's something to always remember when you're making these decisions. It may well be that you can go in all the directions and keep coming back to the center. That could be the message that Spirit has here for you. So what we're going to do, we're going to get you 3 guides, spirit guides, to help you, once this soul activation process is done, going forward. So the first one is Goddess Isis, resurrection, magic, fertility. There is much magic, literally magic and prophecy and healing, because that's healing as well. The goddess Isis had to bring together her brother Osiris's body and put it back together again. There's much magic in the resurrection process for you. Don't underestimate it. It's actually going to be profound and healing for you, as well as, incorporating the healing energy. Then we have Goddess Lakshmi, beauty, fortune, and prosperity. Whatever this is, you're meant to do well out of it. You're supposed to have good fortune. It's likely to be something that you will, in one form or another, bring into your career or vocation. And Archangel Raphael, healing again. You're definitely meant to be a healer. On one level or another, healing is a big, big part of this and always will be. Okay, I'm just going to push those up a little bit further. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a astrology energy for each of those guides for you. So around Goddess Isis, around dealing with the resurrection energy here, around finding your magic. Sagittarius, adventure, independence, flexibility, free-spirited. I think, yeah, part of the magic of this is understanding that even if this was a diversion, though I don't think it really was, I think that this is part of who you are. It's freeing you and it's giving you more options. So not seeing it as like, oh, I got off the path, what do I do now? It's actually, oh, now I've got more paths. Now I've got more freedom. Goddess Lakshmi. Mars, assertion, force, passion. Don't be shy of getting your own ambitions, your own life path and what you want. You're not meant to just become some sort of healing energy that is self-sacrificial. You are actually meant to succeed out of this and have your own passion and drive. And then with Archangel Raphael, Sirius, knowledge, training, wisdom, keeping wisdom, teaching. Yeah, the healing energy is part of your wisdom, but I also think it's connecting to the prophecy. It's maybe suggesting that some of you have starseed type of connections, or that you're going to have connections from that sort of area as well too, as you become more and more integrated with all of these sort of energies and powers. Okay, so now that we're at the close of the Soul Activation series and you have come into your full mastery and power, I just want to finish with a blessing. Now, this blessing could be immediate on the closing out of the Soul Activation series, or it might be something quite a bit further down the track, but we just want to see a blessing that has arisen from this Soul Activation for you. A blessing of fire. Now remember your creativity and also this Mars energy. There is something very creative in you as well too. That should not be lost. Even if there's sort of like the healing sort of side of it is a big part of it, the creative energy is there too. And I think this is saying that you will be revitalized and re-inspired by all of this in the end. It wasn't just a diversion. It wasn't something you had to self-sacrifice. It really was building your skills and your creative energy and all the things you can do going forward. So I hope that this resonated for you. I hope you enjoyed the journey. I hope that it's helped you in your soul activation, or that it will if you watch this now as a bit of a dress rehearsal and then it sort of starts to kick in as the year goes on. I think that your energy, the creative energy and the healing energy is very important in the world, and I think it is a lovely energy. I've said this a couple of times. I think this is a very lovely group of people. So I do wish you the very, very best. I hope you enjoyed the readings. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Beyond that, blessings to you, and I hope to see you in future readings.